Right, good evening. Oh, it's bright up here. Hello. Hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening. God, it looks like Westminster Abbey last year, all these candles flickering out there. Hello. Right, my name's Mike Parker. I'm going to be comparing the steel. In the light, not in the light. For it, in the light, you can see me. Welcome to tonight. We've got lots of things going on. We've got a few support acts coming up for you first. And then, of course, we realise we are but the trays of Twiglets to tonight's main meal. John Cooper Clarke himself will be along a little later on. But, yeah, well, fancy doing a gig in a rugby club? No, I didn't, was the answer to that one. But, no, not at all. But it's quite strange, actually, because this place, Moseley Rugby Club, it's loomed large in my family history. Absolutely true, all this. Because my old man, my dad, in the 50s, in fact, all the decades of the last 40 years of Moseley Rugby Club played its part. Because back in the 50s, my dad was like in the the fifth team Sunday reserves or something like that, and he was a great rugby player. He's a great rugby player, and he always had high hopes for his firstborn son, following him into the game. Dream on, father, really, on that one. Yeah, and in fact, this is God's honest truth. The night I was born, because my sister had been born 4 years earlier, and my dad was very, very disappointed that he got a girl because he wanted, sort of rugby protege to coach and all the rest of it. And then my sister got born, wasn't too happy. 4 years later on, I was born, straight down Moseley Rugby Club, got himself pissed as a newt down here in this very bar on the night that I was born. So that was in the 60s. And then in the 70s, my Auntie Sally, who was the kind of glamour puss of the Parker family, Auntie Sally, she was a trolley dolly on British Airways. Oh yes, smart, we get around. And she went out with a bloke called Jan Webster. Anybody remember Jan Webster? The Moseley, yeah, he was that was in the days when Moseley Rugby Club, they were never the kind of Man United or Arsenal of the rugby game. They were always, in those days they were the sort of, Leicester City, Coventry, that sort of stuff. Pretty good. Nowadays, of course, a bit of the Doncaster Rovers, really, it has to be said. But she went out with Jan Webster. He played for Moseley and England, and you don't get those two combinations very often these days, so I gather. And then, so that was the 70s, Jan Webster and my Auntie Sally. And then in the 80s and 90s, I sort of took on the mantle because I just love playing with my dick and flashing my arse in front of other blokes too. Yes, but that's because I'm a screaming homosexual, and the people down here just do it because they're completely straight, and it just relieves the tension of the game. It does. How about massage, boys, would be my suggestion. It's just as effective. Anyway, so we go back a long way, the Parker family and Moseley Rugby Club. So very nice to be here, indeed it is, and I'm sure if my old man could see me now, he'd probably have a fit and run out and want to kill me, but there you go. And of course now, who's into this time of year? Old autumn. It's great. I love it. Did anybody else share with me on that one? Yes. Why do you like autumn then? Well, apart from that, I mean, you can't base the whole 3 months around your birthday. Well, you can actually, but generally, I'm not surprised. Yeah. But it's great, isn't it? Because during the summer, you get all that. It's the expectation, isn't it? You wake up every day and it's shitty weather and you get all depressed. And in autumn, you don't care anymore. It's gone. Summer's gone. Forget it. So if you get a good one, it's lovely. And it's the season. We had a bit of a poetic evening tonight, and so bring up a little bit of poetry here. Of course, John Keats described autumn as the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, which I think's lovely, and it's kind of encapsulated. So it's the harvesting time, isn't it? And these days we might think we're a bit out of touch with all that. That's all to do with our ancestors, the harvesting. But it, even today, back in the 90s, here we are, and in Birmingham, and yet we're still harvesting. And this came to me last year, about a year ago. I was walking my dog in a local park, and I just looked around, and everybody in the park was harvesting their own particular, things. There was a couple of old ladies picking the last of the blackberries and, ready to make jam or whatever. And there were a few kids hurling sticks up into the horse chestnut trees and getting the conkers. And the squirrels were running around and picking the nuts up, and my dog was running around and trying to harvest the squirrels. And I was doing what I always do when I'm walking the dog for a few months this year, doing the old mushroom hunt. As you do. Found my first one of the season today, so I'm very happy. It's already started, so get out there. And it was a great feeling. Like, there we were all, even in Birmingham in the 1990s, all harvesting away. So it's kind of, it's kind of important. And autumn's also, you get that real sense of this time of year, don't you, of that kind of back-to-school feeling. Even if, you're in your 30s and what have you, it's all part of the cycle. I mean, in those days, of course, we'd all be running off to school at this time of year with our nice new shiny protractor and our new pencil case and what have you. And, 20 years down the line, what do? We kind of, the same sort of feeling. We go and do things like join evening classes. Yeah, anybody confess to having signed up to any evening classes this year? Go on, you look like a self-improvement kind of crowd. You do. I have to say. Come on, who signed up for, cake decoration or something, or, car maintenance? Thinking about it? Yes, well, I just think very carefully because, of course, the thing is, you sign on. Oh, Diana studies at Matthew Bolton. That sounds good. Yeah, so I'll give that a whirl. Tuesday nights, and then you sign on, you pay your 40 quid, you go to the first two. And then it's kind of cold, isn't it? And it's wet and it's got dark and, well, fuck it, 20 quid a piece for an hour of some bloke with dandruff's time, it's money well spent. So, but enjoy it. Don't let me put you off. Please, 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 don't let me put you off if you do enjoy it. And of course, the winter nights start drawing in, and you start cuddling up and watching the telly and turning on, things like it's when the soaps come into their own, really, isn't it? The autumn and the winter, when you sort of cuddle up and you get really into it. And is Sally Webster having another love triangle on Coronation Street? Any Coronation Street addicts in? Oh, yes. It's a fun one, isn't it? Although I must admit, I have got a little bit of a problem with the amount of sort of sex, quite honestly. I mean, I'm not prudish. I mean, you've probably gathered that already. But, I'm not a prude. But, I mean, for God's sake, Coronation Street used to be sort of, camp and wholesome. You know what I'm saying? And nowadays, they've tried to, sizzle it up, haven't they? Shove up the ratings by getting all these young sex gods and sex goddesses in, and they keep taking their clothes off. And it's like... 20 years ago in Coronation Street, Ines Sharples walking by going, put your cardi on, love, you'll catch a death of cold. And that's just as it should be. I don't want to see Sally Webster in a bloody love triangle. Thank you very much. But earlier on this year, of course, there was the Deirdre. Remember this one, the Deirdre scenario? The saga of Deirdre Rashid and her con man lover. You remember this one? When she got banged up in prison. Terrible, terrible tragedy. Poor old Deirdre with her huge, big sort of windscreen specs. Looking, she always got that neck on her, hasn't she? Like that. It looks terrible. And she always looks so bloody miserable. Well, I'm not surprised. She's not had much fun, has she? And in fact, it did inspire me. As I say, it's a bit of a poetic evening, and it did inspire me into writing a poem for Deirdre when she was banged up in prison. And if you remember, what was even better about it was it became not just something on the telly on, most nights of the week, as I think it is these days, but it was, the government ploughed in on it. Deirdre got banged up in jail, and there was Tony Blair, our dearly beloved Prime Minister, complaining, saying it's a miscarriage of justice, and you think, come on, mate, haven't you got anything, better to do with your time, quite frankly, There are real people banged up in prison who shouldn't be, and you're blathering on about a soap opera character. But anyway, of course, any bandwagon going past and old Blair's on it, isn't he? So no surprise there. But anyway, here's a little poem about Deirdre. There's not been much joy in your life, Deirdre, ever since you landed in Corrie. No wonder your neck looks stretched like a chicken's. You've lived through 6 lifetimes of worry. There was Ray with his perm and boring old Ken. It explains why Baldwin looked racy. And if things ever started to get better for you, well, they'd always get ruined by Tracy. And reeling from Ken, you married Samir, a man with the oomph of a plank. When he got bumped off, you still didn't learn. You'd be better off having a wank. But no, your old hormones kept driving you on. You lunged at a fake pilot's joystick, thinking you'd get in the Mile High Club, and instead getting slammed in the nick. Deirdre Langton, Barlow, Rashid, your life's not been much to savour. But to cap it all, the cruelest blow, you're the pin-up of New Labour. Well, thank you. Sad what some of us occupy our time with, really, isn't it? It's kind of amazing. Yes, but it has been... so anyway, it is autumn. It's time to sort of improve ourselves and, get into all that kind of stuff, because it's, it's a damn good thing to do. And a little bit of self-improvement. I'm going to introduce our first wee act now. He's going to come storming on. I can't see a thing up here, so I hope he's ready. Please put your hands together. Give it up for Mr. Al Hutchins.